Good evening, everybody. Well, this is a bit strange for me to see an audience separated from each other, but we're alive and kicking, and that's what counts. Thank you so much for joining in, all the people that are joining us live on Facebook and all the other channels. Welcome very much. That's Dutch, English. For this 37th edition of Pecha Kucha. Yes, you are allowed to clap. And before we kick off with our great list of presentators for today, first I would like to spare a little moment for the sheet you're seeing right now. TAC is one of the places where we host our Pecha Kucha nights, and it's also the place where artists in Eindhoven join up and get a space to start creating stuff. And they are nominated for the Cultural Prize of Eindhoven. So if you haven't voted for them yet, please do, because they're the greatest. Who said that? So this brings us to our first speaker for today. Well, everybody knows about the scarcity of houses in Eindhoven, but not only Eindhoven. Many cities are having this problem. And well, Maurik Stoms has a really good solution for this. He's going to tell you all about it. Here he is, Maurik Stoms.
Thank you. It all started with an empirical research that I wanted to do on the use of public space, who owns public space, and to what extent can I participate in making a city. So I started making little objects and left them behind on the street to see what kind of response it would trigger from the people concerning with the street, the people on the street, but also the rats, for example. This was a tile that I replaced after it was sunken away because the rats were digging holes underneath it. After several of these smaller objects, I thought maybe it's also nice to not only add something to the public space, but also claim a part of the public space. And I knew that companies like Eneco, they don't need a permit to put these boxes on the street. So I thought maybe I can do it as well. Nobody would notice. So I copied one of the boxes, and nobody noticed because nobody really looks at those objects. So that was a bit boring. But then I met Pershman. It's a homeless guy that used to live in my porch. And yeah, the box immediately got like a purpose. And after this, I thought maybe I can take it a step further. Maybe I can make a building in the street. So let's make a house. And of course, you cannot just do that. You have all these rules that prevent me from doing that. So I needed this loophole that I found in the bike. And apparently, you can park your bike almost everywhere as long as it is not wider than 1.5 meters. So I made all these structures, and in the end I found, this was a bit dangerous. It was tumbling over, so I scaled it a bit down towards something more safe and more recognizable as a home, with a window, a roof, and a door in it. And I parked it on the street, and again it was a bit boring because not much was happening. But after a while I found out that someone actually started to use it as a home. And then it became interesting. So I decided to start a conversation with this man. I wrote him a letter on a piece of cardboard that I found, and I left it behind in the bike with a couple of beers. And it said, "Hello, nice evening, and welcome." And the next morning I went back to the bike to see what happened, and the beers were gone. And there was something written underneath it on the paper, but I couldn't read it that much because he spilled a bit of beer over it, so it was a bit fake. And it was not in Dutch, so that was a little problem. So I typed it into Google Translate, and well, dziękuję. It turned out to be Polish for thank you. So a Polish person, I thought maybe I should just continue in Polish then. And I asked people on Facebook to help me translate. And so that's how I could read and write in Polish. And with each letter that I wrote, I also changed something to the bike. So here I made a lamp for him so he could actually read my letters in the dark. And I also put a lock on the door. And the lock was actually quite an interesting thing for the bike because it changed the bike from my bike to his home. He started to appropriate as well. Like he wrote like "no open" underneath the lock, and so I continued writing letters. And after several days, I noticed that I got response in different handwritings. And one day I went to my window and I looked outside where the bike was parked. And then I saw my new neighbor climbing out of the bike. And then I saw another guy climbing out of the bike. And in the end, there were like 3 people living in this structure. And you have to imagine this bike was like 1.5 meter, 149 by 180. Which is quite small for 3 adults, but they were okay with it, and they asked me, can we stay here longer? And yeah, of course that was fine, but take good care of the bike. That was the only rent that they had to pay. And well, they did. They really started to clean up. They made their bed, and they had quite a nice little cabin you can see here. This went on for 2 weeks, I guess, and but then there started to become a problem because the weather was changing and the rain was coming, and I knew there was a big problem. The roof was not waterproof, so I wrote them another letter. Hey guys, use the silicone sealant to seal the roof, otherwise it's gonna leak, and you don't want that. And unfortunately, they had a better plan, a better solution. They found a tarp somewhere in the street, and they covered the bike completely, which was very waterproof. It was a waterproof idea, but it also looked a bit dodgy. It was a shabby thing now, and this is also what the police thought. Because the next morning, again, I looked out of my window and I found the bike completely destroyed. The door was ripped off, and it was a mess, and there was no sign of the Polish people. While I was taking pictures of this scenery, local officer, Agent John, came to me, and John told me that he had arrested the Polish people because they were sleeping in public space, and that's not allowed. And he also warned me that the authorities were planning on removing the bike because it was inviting for illegal activities, sleeping. So I had to find a new place for it, but again, a day later, I was already too late, and the municipality had removed the bike. They parked it at the deposit, the bike deposit of the city, next to the metal scrapyard. And for me, this ending of this story, it sort of ended here, is quite a interesting ending as well. It's for 2 weeks everything was fine because the bike looked like a fancy cargo bike or an interesting art school project, and the moment the Polish people started to improve it to their own pragmatic taste, you see that something changes, and then a system is set into motion where the Polish people get arrested and a company is called to get rid of the bike, and then everything is back to normal again. And apparently that's what we expect from our public space. That's just in time. Thank you.
That's fascinating. I never knew that was a choice after all.
Yeah.
But I'm considering it now.
Sleeping in a bike.
Yeah,
It's cold in the winter, right?
It's way cheaper.
Yeah. It's also very temporary. Yeah, it's
yeah. Well, it's also a nice way to challenge the existing system and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's a really, really interesting experiment you did.
Yeah, for me it was not about homelessness, it was more about the system behind it, or the system dealing with it. And I think that was actually quite interesting, that I didn't know what was going to happen, so that was one big surprise for me as well. So
Thank you so much for your story.
yeah.
Maurik Storms, everybody. And before you go, Maurik,
Oh, yes.
we're not done with you yet. First, I'm going to check the audience for questions. Luke.
Yeah, it's funny that you say the system gets into work, because as I understood, this is not the end of the project, and there was quite a fuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I need to repeat the question for the live audience that's not here. So it's really interesting that the project actually ended now, because there's a lot of more potential we hear from the audience. What do you think about that?
The question was a bit different, but it's it was sort of, yeah, the project didn't end here, of course, it always evolves. But yeah, I think what you were aiming for was the fact that I got like this order restraint, straatverbod in Dutch, but not for me, but for the objects I'm making. So the municipality gave me a restraint to make any objects in the public space for the next year. So that will sort of influence the way I'm working quite much, I guess.
So now they know you exist and
Yeah.
you're doing these experiments.
Yeah. Yeah, shit.
Nice. Any more questions from the audience? Yes.
How did they find out it was you?
How did they find out it was you?
Yeah, I was not very discreet with it, so I was on the design week with this project as well, and it was quite funny because after several days there was this guy walking with his wife over through the exhibition space, and then he walked through my work, and there were also quite some letters of the municipality hanging on the wall. And he said like, "Oh, that's nice. I wrote all those letters." And he was actually the head of the Department of Law Enforcement. But he actually liked it. But I'm not sure whether he told my name to his colleagues. So it's.
Well, I'm sure he was just as interested in the whole experiment as you were.
Yeah.
Well, rules. Huh? Thank you so much
Yes.
for coming. But before we go, second, there's no questions. Zikuya?
Oh, it was. You pronounce it? Ah, Chikuya. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Put your hands together for Maurik. And, well, if there's one thing student teams are good at is creating teams and doing sports and activities and being good at them, I heard. But there's one activity that there are no student teams at. And Job Hendricks is here to tell you all about it. Where is he? Job, are you ready? No, he's not ready. I need to stall. So what do you people think about the new Corona-style Pecha Kucha nights? Any insights? Here in the front row, lady with the blonde hair.
No, I think it's working, but it's a shame that so little people can be here, because I had more friends that wanted to come and then they couldn't. So that's a shame. And I think, watching online is not as entertaining as being here.
No, that's true. A lot of people were fighting outdoor to get in, but we need to stay strong, Corona isn't gonna hang around for long, I bet. So let's just make the best out of this. And we have a great live streaming setup, thanks to Frank behind the camera. You can't see him, but he sure can see me. And David, who is doing all the live comments, checking all the live comments. The people that are checking through Facebook, if you have any questions, nobody can see your face. And if you ask any stupid questions, there are none. But if you do, people still can see you. So please do. But for now, we're going to continue with Job, and Job is going to tell you all about the next best thing students are good at. Put your hands together.
Well, probably you will have grandparents, right? Then you might also have been to nursing homes, a place full of elderly people that can't live on their own. But what happens when right at that place is there fire? What happens next? People can't escape by themselves and they need help. For these kinds of situations in the Netherlands, we have aid workers, BHV'ers. But in the Netherlands, there's also a raising problem right now going on. There are not enough aid workers to actually evacuate all the people. And normally these aid workers will try to help you and guide you to a fire exit. However, due to the lack of people in these places, there needs to be a solution. And we, as a student team from the TUE, have got a solution for you. We, as BlueJ, develop drones. And with these drones, we are trying to evacuate all the people. We do that with different kind of activities and different kind of processes. For example, our drone is really special because our drone works inside instead of outside, which normal drones work at. Our drone is also safe. That makes it pretty obvious, like a drone that's not safe, why would you use it, right? So also our drone is interactive and autonomous. I will come to that later. We work in close collaboration with the fire department of Eindhoven, which helps us with these cases, with this use case. So last year we actually had our final case there, and so we had this case right there, which you can see right now. There are multiple drones inside a nursing home, and when there's fire, they will lift up in the air and they will actually try to see where people are. They will know that by the smoke detectors in a building, so they will navigate towards that room and see where there's fire. And after the fire department comes to the room and comes to the building, they will actually try to get the fire out, while BlueJ, our drone, is supposed to get all the people out, with the help of the aid workers, of course. So we do that by a small collaboration with the fire department, where the fire department gets an app from us, and with this app, they get all the information about what's happening inside. For example, in the app, they will get a live stream of what BlueJ sees. So they will have a bigger and better view of what's happening inside the building. And of course, as I said, there are some specialties that our drone has. For example, it works indoors, it is interactive, and it is autonomous. So what I said was, our drone works indoors, which comes with some difficulties. For example, if there's a drone inside, then you will need to keep the noise down. Because if there's noise, people would get anxious and they will get mad at the drone, instead of wanting them to help us. So that comes with our drone. So we will try to actually get the noise down and make it more efficient. Our drone is good at that, and we need some further improvements on that, but that's our vision for now. We want to have a drone that's working indoors, and that is also for my next point, that the drone also needs to be autonomous. For example, if our drone has some manual components, that there is someone who's behind the keys and who is steering the drone, then it becomes really hard to actually manage the drone. And there also needs to be people, right? So you have the autonomous drone. So the drone knows where the people are and where it will fly towards. And it can see whether there are people in the room or there are objects. For example, our drone has image recognition. Our drone can recognize whether there's a lamp in the room or actually a people. Further on, we can also say that our drone is interactive. And you might say like, well, yeah, there's a nursing home, so elderly people are in there. My grandparents can't even connect with a telephone. How are they supposed to get help from a drone, which is like utopias or something like that? So actually, our drone tries to connect with the people by making the drone better to see and better, more happy. It will have eyes, it will have eyebrows, so that makes it a lot more human-like. For example, if the drone sees that someone is anxious or mad, he will try to impress them and make the same emotion. But of course, to all combine these things, we need to have the hardware for it. We need to have to actually build the drone. And as you can see right here, this is the drone. It is a quadcopter, so it has four spinning wheels. And it will actually have lights on it as well. So with these lights, it can actually connect with the people as well. So if someone is in the room and he can't see the drone or he does not notice it, we can flash with the lights, so people actually notice it. And as you can see right here, it's actually a pretty cute drone. It has eyes which can also be in heart shapes. So if your grandparents are there, they will actually like the drone instead of pushing it away. And for our final mission, we want to actually help your grandparents escape from the fire building. And overall, our drone is set to help everyone escape the building, and not only yours, but everyone. Thank you.
Well, interesting. So many different stories today. I can't keep up. But maybe the audience can. Do I see any hands? Any questions at all? There are no stupid questions. Lady in the back.
Can it also be used, the drone, to evacuate people directly instead of just filming what's happening for the firefighters, like having some kind of light system that people would follow to outside, or maybe even like a water disposal to help the firefighters?
Can you please raise your volume and maybe try to put it in one sentence for the live people?
Was asking if you could directly like help evacuate people instead of being an aid for the firefighters, like that we could have like some lights that
So is the drone directly capable of aiding people out instead of just supporting them, right?
Okay, so for now it is capable of evacuating the people, but that's, I don't really understand the question, because that's also an aid for the fire department.
Like
So it's like communication.
physically guide them out, that's what you meant,
Yeah,
right?
it will do that. Yeah, it will show them where the fire exit is and guide them towards that.
Great.
Yeah, it actually is.
Good question. So the prototype, has it been tested yet?
It is tested, yes. It does not fully work as I said, but that's our goal, of course. So we are a student team, so nothing comes with all the 100% best actions. So yeah.
Thank you. One more question from the audience. The lady in the brown vest, if I'm correct.
Have you already tested it with the users, either the fire department or the elderly people?
So have you tested it with the users yet, either the fire department or the elderly people?
Yeah, so last year we got to the fire department and we got our scenes there. So we actually worked with the people in there and see whether it worked. And for now, our interaction team is also doing use studies to actually see whether it also applies to elderly people, which is of course a big big audience for us.
I'm really curious about how this is going to unravel. It's definitely a good thing you guys are doing. David, any questions from you?
What inspired the name Blue Jay?
Okay, that's a pretty funny story. So if you look at our logo, it has like a bird on it. I don't know if you can show it, but it has a bird on it, and Blue Jay is translated to it is a bird. And what's so funny about this bird is that this bird is pretty intelligent. And we like to say that our drone is also pretty intelligent. So that is like the small communication with those two words. Yeah.
So this is an answer on the question.
I hope.
Where does the name Blue Jay come from?
Yeah.
Any more questions, David? No more questions from the live audience, but keep it up, posting it, whoever is doing it. Anyway, thank you so much for coming up.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker for today is here for an entirely different subject. Did you know the week we're living in right now is all about vitality. It's the Dutch week of vitality. And there's one thing that's a very common problem in our modern times. And he's here to tell you all about it. But before we are at that point, he's strapping on his microphone, and I have time to tell you all about the importance of being a speaker at Pecha Kucha, because, well, it's every time we have somewhere between 6 and 20 speakers each edition, and every time we do it, we had more viewers because everybody is super interested about learning about new things, new random things, new very intelligent things, new arty things. Arty is a bit degrading, but you know what I mean. Pecha Kucha is really important. Even if you think you have a story of your own, but you think you don't want to share it because it's not that special, well, guess again, it is. So, next edition, apply yourselves, practice your live communicating skills, and get on the stage. Okay, so that was the end of my rant. Please put your hands together for Mr. Luc Damen.
This was me. Always busy, always working. At that same moment, I was a project manager, event manager, campaign manager, creative director. I was the CEO of a social design agency, and I was constantly running around from meeting to meeting. I was having hundreds of emails a day, phone calls, texting at the same time, from one location to the next, and always tried to go for the max. Visible, big projects, really go for it. You can imagine what happened. I hit a brick wall. A big fucking burnout. And I'm fucking loving it. Not at the moment, of course, because at that moment my entire life collapsed. My work, gone. My company, gone. Important relationships, gone. Financial problems, not gone. So I had to start over. Thank you for playing. It was time to let go. Because losing things also creates room for yourself. So I started feeling again. Started my way back. Started meditating, do yoga, do sports, really start taking care of myself. My life was on the wrong way. Something had to change, so I had to get back to the basics. So slowly but steadily, taking care of myself, started reinventing myself. Taking time, take it easy. Look inside. What is there? So I started waking up again. Started feeding myself. And I really refound my passion for cooking. Cooking from really good basic materials. And as I started to get better, I started to pick up new things. So I set up this thing called Hey Hey HMA, where I invited people to come over to my house to eat the food that I made. Good friends, acquaintances, total strangers. And we had a blast. And this helped me get me back on my way back. So from this I grew and I started, I could start working again. So I started working at the TUE first as a volunteer. And it's really weird that after a burnout, when you first start working, and the things that used to be normal that you used to do, like, you just can't do that. But it helped me get back on my feet. It helped me get back on track. And slowly I started to pick up more work and more things. And I landed this really nice project here at the TUE. And it was typical kind of project that I used to do. Very visible, a big campaign. I was organizing events, having contact with a lot of people, doing the entire communication. And it was a big success. It worked really well. It was a really, really nice project again. And although maybe, of course, it had a little bit of stress at the end of the project, it was clear to me. I was back. And I'm fucking loving it. I had gone through the process. I had taken my time to find my stride again, step by step, and it had taken a long time. But it allowed me to be back again. And it even allowed me to treat myself to a great trip. I went to Indonesia, the country of my mother. I visited her house where she was born, which was amazing. And I saw all these amazing places. I went diving. I met a lot of people. Great food. It was awesome. I was back. And I was fucking loving it. And then, nothing. When I came back, I was back on the couch. I had a new project and I just couldn't find the energy. It was drained. It depleted me again. What is this? And I didn't understand. And people around me didn't understand. I had come back, right? I had gone through the process. I had gone through the work. I did all the feeling, going inside. Why this? This is where the problem lies with burnouts. Your objective is to not come back. You have to go beyond coming back. You have to find yourself. You have to find your passion. You have to find what gives you energy in what you're doing, not what you think you need to be or whatever. You have to create a new road. You have to create your own road, your own story. So I had to go back again. And I was lucky enough that in the time when I was working at the university, I had picked up on something new, something that I related to something that I was always passionate about. I've always been passionate about acting. I've done a lot of acting. I had this theater act where we traveled to all the major theater festivals in Holland. And I found something that connected to that. Nowadays, I teach presentation skills. And it was an eye-opener. For the first time in my life, I can honestly and wholeheartedly say, I love my job. And it's a different kind of working, the way I interact with people. It's not so stressful. I go to my training, I do my training, I work with people at the spot, And I'm fucking loving it. And this is what my message is about. A burnout is not about coming back, but we're all focused on that. When you have a burnout, you are focused on coming back. Your surroundings are focused on you coming back. If you have an employer, they are really focused on you coming back. But we shouldn't come back. We have to go beyond coming back. So if you have your burnout, please let go of where you came from. And if you have anyone in your surroundings that deals with a burnout, give them time. Let them go beyond going back. And you'll get a more passionate, more powerful, more loving person for it. And they'll fucking love their burnout. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luc, for your story.
My pleasure.
And Luc isn't a very unfamiliar face around here because he is actually the one that started Pecha Kucha with a few other people, right,
Yep.
Luc? And well, I'm glad I can chip in to it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, but there are, I have a lot of questions, but I already know Luc, so I bet some people in the back have a lot of questions. Don't be scared. Any questions? Girl in the pink sweater has good questions. No? David, no questions on the live audience?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes?
What's the most important aspect of your lifestyle you changed after your burnout?
So what's the most important thing you changed about your lifestyle after the burnout?
Taking care of myself first. So really keep focusing on the basics. Make sure I'm healthy, make sure I rest enough, make sure I have a healthy life and work balance. So I'm not going to work 90 hours anymore per week. I'm not even going to work 40 hours a week. Really take care of myself first of everything, above anything.
That's a good advice. And working less doesn't even mean like being less productive. That's the funny thing, right?
It doesn't feel like that. If I would measure the number of emails that I send or the number of phone calls that I do, I'm way, way, way less productive. But I'm doing things in the moment right now, and that's what I really love about the work that I do. It's not. I used to be working a lot, and then when I was at home, my mind would still go, okay, I have to do this and this, and I have to call this person, and oh yeah, this concept has to be changed like this. And then now, when I leave, when I'm done with the training, I maybe think, yeah, it would be nice if he would do this in his presentation, and that's it. It's, it's much more healthy for the mind, I must say.
Thank you so much. If you have any questions, and oh, there's one more question more. Yeah?
So how much time did it take you from the initial burnout to the moment that you rediscovered this passion for
So
it's been,
how long did it take you? Sorry, I need to for the live. So how long did it take Luc to between the
to find this new thing? Well, the funny thing is, I'm the founder of Pecha Kucha Eindhoven, and back then I already had this idea for creating this training, but I just never got around to it. My process, my burnout is almost 5 years to the day. Well, 5 years minus 1 month to the day. And it was in my 3rd year when I was working at TUE that they had, there was an opening of a new institute, and they wanted to have some PhD students do a Pecha Kucha presentation. So they came to me like, hey, you know everything about Pecha Kucha, can you tell us something about it? So I was like, yeah, well, actually, I would like to do this training. So I got a chance to do it. It was like love at first sight. This is the first time I did it. It really was an eye-opener. I'd never expected to like something like this, like the way I did. And it was successful. All the presentations went really well. People were happy. And I got the chance to do it a couple of more times throughout the year. And then after my trip, when I had my full back, I had felt a lot of resistance in an old type project, and at the same time I had 2 trainings, and after every session I walked out with a smile like this. And for me that was the point that I said, okay, I have to stop doing this and I have to start doing this. So it's taken a while, and I was lucky to bump into a situation where I could encounter this.
Thank you, Luc, for spending time on this very underlighted subject and for being so transparent about it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, people at home. Millions of people have tuned in to see the Pecha Kucha presentation tonight through Facebook and other means. All the people live too. Thanks for staying with us. The next presentation is all about something we created for ourselves. We are sitting in a room, and a room that's something we invented ourselves. We put walls around us and we call it a room inside a building. And that's an interesting thing. Well, Team Casa is here. Well, to be more precise, Thomas van der Werf is here to tell you all about the environments we built around us and the future that lies within it. Put your hands together for Thomas.
Wow. When you finally stand in front of such a big crowd over such a long time, it's quite impactful. Like most of you probably have done in your life, a couple days I woke up, nice rest. I opened the curtains and I saw a nice sunshine. Nice. I checked the weather app, like most people do. And I saw it was going to be 25 degrees Celsius. That's interesting. I'm not the only person who is looking at the weather app. The people in the state of California and Oregon are also sometimes looking at the weather app, noticing forest fires outside of the window. Well, this can't be climate change, right? Climate change is still way off in the future, 20, 30 years from now. We signed a Paris Agreement where we're going to be energy neutral. We did it! No, we did not. There's one aspect that a lot of people forget about, and that's the built environment. In the Netherlands alone, 35% of CO2 emissions is caused by the built environment. One of the highest. The main culprit being cement, approximately 8%, which is higher than the entire transport industry, including planes in the Netherlands. We like to think about electric cars, which are nice, but this was one of the more real issues. But people need houses, right? There's a housing crisis. People can't buy houses, they're renting now. We need to build more. Well, okay. Let's say you build the damn thing. 40% of your energy usage goes to just heating your house alone. Just heating. Glad that I wasn't the only student who found it quite troublesome. I went together with a couple of my fellow students who also don't like fire and forest fires. So we grouped together and I joined Team Casa, a student team just like my colleague from Blue Jay, aimed at solving the housing crisis, but also battling the environment in a positive way. We aim to provide a self-sufficient and sustainable house without the loss of comfort and affordable to everyone, using all modern technology that we know today. Well, what do you think about? You think about solar panels. Everyone has seen them. Some of you probably own them. Some of you don't, but you know what they are. In the summer, they generate the most electricity. Nice. You generate electricity, you send it back to the grid. No. We put it in a giant battery underneath the house. That battery is made of steel, aluminium, and water. Nice, pretty good. This battery will last you all the way through winter and will heat up your entire house via the heating system in the floors. Easy, 40% already gone. How do you do the rest? How do you fix the rest? Well, we have a unique AC-DC hybrid electrical system, which might sound a bit unfamiliar to some of you. Usually it has AC and a hybrid system with direct current and AC. Has never been done before, so this is a totally unique thing. By doing this, you save conversion costs, and every percentage helps. We also have demand-driven ventilation, which measures the CO2 levels inside your house so you can have nice fresh air. It uses cold air from the winter to be used in the summer. Nice. No AC needed. To make it affordable, we have predictive maintenance. A key attribute that increases the rent is the cost of maintenance. If you can predict it, price will go down. But then you actually have to build it. A lot of waste, just like personal waste, a lot of waste comes from the built environment as well, sadly. But we try to remedy it by using steel, wood, and bamboo as our main materials. We build a spine made of metal, and we prefabricate the floors and the walls. We then go to the building site, place down the spine, and attach the floors and the walls. And then some wiring work, done. Quick, easy. And just as it is easy to assemble, it's easy to disassemble, making way for opportunity of reuse, reusing the bamboo, reusing the wood, reusing the metal. And you know, if you want to destroy a house, go right ahead, just not this one. And by doing this, every little bit helps. And we at Tim Kaza and me personally hope we hope the future looks more like a sunny CGI rendered picture where forests are not burning. And I'm aiming for that, and I hope you are aiming for that too. Thank you.
Whoa, you're a really natural born storyteller.
Well, thank you.
I really enjoyed your talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, give him one more applause. Thomas, everybody. Thomas, before everybody else gets a shot, I'm really, I've been meaning to ask, what's the primary drive for this project? Did you come up with this in the beginning?
My primary drive, or just in general?
The team. Maybe you can speak for the team.
Well, the team, the project has been going for approximately 4 to 5 years already, and the main drive was started by a couple students who wanted to try something in the housing market in regards to sustainability. That was the original idea. And it changed, and eventually they decided, well, fuck it, why not build a house? And that's what happened. But my personal drive is just trying to make the world a better place.
Right. Yeah, that's very important.
I agree.
Questions from the audience? The question is, why are you still using steel? Because it's one of the largest industries that uses the most energy, right?
Yeah, so that's, there are multiple factors to this. So one of the biggest is availability and price. We still want to, well, we don't want to make a multi-million euro mansion. So steel, cheap and readily available. It's also quite strong for the price. I mean, you can also use titanium, which is strong and light, but we don't have money for that. We use steel because you can reuse it if it's made in a way that thinks about reusing later, which increases lifetime of the materials. And sadly, everything comes at a cost, but you're absolutely right, steel is one of big problems as well. But affordability, reusability, and increasing the lifespan makes it a very, very good choice.
Good question from the audience. Any more? In the back, yes. Does anybody want to build this house?
Great question. Gladly, people do want to build a house. We're going to build this winter, actually, in Helmond. So if you ever want to see this house in action, come by in a couple months, walk around Helmond and near the train station and you will find it.
Are you going to do it all by yourself with the team, or is there a construction company involved?
No, we have one of our partners, Herx, and the corporate, the living corporation, Woonbedrijf.
That's a big name. Well done.
Woonbedrijf is pretty big, Herx is also pretty big, but Herx is our contractor and is actually going to build it. Yeah, we're not going to build it ourselves because we're not allowed to.
Yeah, then you get the same problem with the bike homes. That was a good idea as well. One more question, yes?
Well, one of the things is also the space you need for your housing still, because then you can use the rest of the space for trees and nature, etc. So is it able to build it in higher stock so that you can reduce the footprint of the house itself?
Can you put it in one sentence, please?
If we can have multiple stories.
Yes.
Just if that was the question, multiple stories.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
That's the one of our. We made a concept which is expandable, so you can have a bunch of these houses connected with each other and make one giant STES, water battery, which actually helps reduce the footprint. So. Stack it, but some technological advancements and tricks should be used if you do so.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
One more question from the online audience.
How much does the house cost?
How much does the house cost, or is going to cost, maybe?
I don't know if I can reveal that information, actually. Well, I can give you some explanation. Since this is a first-time thing, no one has done this. This is a research project where a lot of errors and time has been lost along the way. So this house will be a bit expensive, but our hope is if the concept is reused and the prefabricated materials is done on a conveyor belt style fashion, then it would drive the cost down significantly.
There's also a possibility that one of the competitors is asking this question. So clever thinking. Thank you so much, Thomas, for coming.
Thank you.
So yes, we only have one headset, and that means you guys are gonna have to do with me for a couple of moments more. I joined up with the Pecha Kucha team, I think maybe 1.5 years ago when I did my story about personal perseverance and just trying out new stuff and see what happens. And that's actually when I kind of fell in love with doing Pecha Kucha, because the energy is always so great. Even now with less people, everybody is really polite and listening and asking intelligent questions. So, I think our next speaker for today is ready. So, our next speaker is all about, let me put this right. He is really familiar with inclusivity. Back when the first designers were there, we used to make design for everybody, but now it's for really everybody, for every minority. Put your hands together for Arthur Nijdam, sorry.
I've always had a difficult relationship with the mirror. When I looked at it, I didn't recognize myself. It felt like a stranger was standing in front of me. In a way, that was true, because a girl stared back at me while I felt like a boy. As you can probably tell, my life is much different now. Now I drink beer, make misogynistic jokes, and like to watch soccer, right? Actually, I don't. I don't like to do these things. But as I started to look and sound more like a man, people expected me to do these things. I now realize the pressure that society puts on men to do or not do certain things. Let me give you an example. Before I had surgery, swimming was always quite a difficult thing for me. Because let's say it's not that nice to go swimming for a guy who has boobs. Of course, I was not going to wear a bikini, so I decided to wear this big, oversized swimming shirt and being an uncomfortable mess. But then something unexpected happened. My brother told me that he actually thought it was quite courageous of me to do that, to go swimming in this big oversized shirt, because he felt the pressure to go swimming without a shirt, and he didn't like it. Because of that, he didn't like to swim anymore. When I talked to some of my friends, they told me that they felt the same way about it. This is when I realized that we all bump into the stereotypes associated with these roles. And this is why I think that everyone can benefit from paying more attention to diversity and inclusion in our daily lives. But what is diversity? I can already hear you think about things like gender-neutral toilets and Black Lives Matters and other debates that seem to split our society in half. You might think that you're getting into minefields. Maybe you might offend someone, but it's actually not that hard. Today, I'm going to give you 2 simple tips of dealing with diversity around you. First of all, very simple, very easy. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. Even if you cannot imagine what it's like to need a gender-neutral toilet, realize that 31% of the trans and non-binary people restricts the amount that they eat or drink because they're so afraid to go to the toilet. I used to be one of those people. But even for me, it's hard to imagine what it would be like if my name was Mohammed or if I had a different skin color and I tried to get a job. I cannot imagine what that would be like. And therefore, before you say that gender-neutral toilets are unnecessary or that this racial stereotyping in job applicants does not exist, think twice and actually talk to someone who's going through this. And in doing so, again, treat people the way you would like to be treated. If you wouldn't like to discuss with a total stranger what's in your pants, then why would you ask me? This brings me to my second point. We have a face, we have a story. We're not just our label, we are much more than that. In the first place, I'm a human being. I'm a student, and I do all sorts of weird stuff like that. I'm even a power lifter. Who would have thought that 2 years ago? I'm more than just my label, but sometimes these things overlap. They coincide. Last year, I was a member of the University Council. And once we were discussing this fellowship program for people in science, for women in science and engineering, and they had defined woman as somebody with a female gender marker in their passport. Then in the break, I went up to the executive board and I told them that I, not looking that much different from the way I look today, could actually apply as well, because I still had a female gender marker in my passport. As you can see, I don't have it anymore. This made me realize that it's so important to actually talk to the people that it is about. And it inspired me to strive for a diversity officer for students. Someone who talks to the students from these minority groups and makes sure that their needs and the things that they need are reflected in the policies of the TUE. We actually achieved that. And, well, she's on this picture. I'm very happy that we succeeded in that. But this is enough about me. What can you do today or tomorrow already to promote diversity in your environment? Well, talk to somebody you wouldn't normally talk to. Go beyond the bubbles that you currently reside in. And educate yourself on topics like Black Lives Matter. It's not just a morally right thing to do, but it's an opportunity. Behind me, you see these pictures of an incomplete orchestra. You can probably imagine that an orchestra is nothing without a vital part of it, its violins. At the same time, the violins by themselves are never going to produce the same sound as the entire orchestra. In a way, the same thing is true for diversity. If you go beyond the bubbles, beyond everything that you've constructed around yourself, and you meet people you wouldn't normally meet, then you will start to notice that just like this orchestra starts to flourish as more and more diverse instruments are added to the mix, your life will become much more vibrant when you open yourself up to a diverse group of people. Diversity isn't just a buzzword. It isn't just a problem. It's an opportunity, and it's all around you. Thanks.
Yes, 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 and I'm really glad you brought this up, Arthur, because this is exactly the reason why you should be here, right? You meet all these kinds of strange people like me, and you meet entrepreneurs, artists, people you haven't heard about ever. So please come back, join us.
I encourage everybody to, after this event, go talk to the people who are sitting next to you.
That's actually an assignment I'm giving you home. Next time you come back, you need to show me if you did it, okay? Just kidding. I have one question for you, Arthur. After you already accomplished quite a lot at the TU by looking at the policies here and bringing the story back. Do you have any plans with inclusivity after you leave the TU?
Oh, that's an interesting story. Well, I think we have to start here. And I'm not sure. Like, I'm going to specialize in something completely different. I'm a master's student in electrical engineering and biomedical engineering. And often you see that in those algorithms, there's a lot of bias in there. And I think it would be really interesting to discover how we can eliminate that, to make sure that these algorithms aren't biased anymore. So maybe I could even incorporate it into my work field later.
I've heard that discrimination is basically programmed. Like, if there's anything that's unfamiliar, we're going to push it away. That's sort of, that makes it harder.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm far too interested in this subject. The audience is here to ask questions. Yes?
It's not a question, but it's something I learned and I love it so much. And that's when you are looking at somebody who is different and you are not so open to talk to. Just have a look at this person and think, just like me, this person is a person with ambitions, with soul, with love, whatever. Just like me. Everything, if you think about that this person is a person like you. And it's really helpful, and then you can open up to that person and you have this conversation. It's just a tip I have.
That's really lovely. I'm not trying to repeat what you just said, but it was a really lovely story, and thank you for giving that feedback for the live watchers. Any question? Yes, in the pink shirt. Sorry? So what's a policy you think that the TU should implement?
I think I'm not the one that is supposed to say it, because that's the whole reason why I decided to fight to get this diversity officer. I felt that when I was in the university council, I just happened to be there, and I happened to be able to say something about it, and just walk up to the executive board, tell them what they do wrong. But I think that more students should be heard in these decision-making processes. For example, international students, they should be heard as well. It's not just because they're accidentally in the university council that they get to say something about it, but I feel like every student should be able to say something about policy, and I really hope that that's going to happen. But yeah, I have faith in it, that the current diversity officer will have a sounding board of students coming from all kinds of minority groups, but also just regular students at the TUE, and that their wishes are reflected in what's going to happen all around us. Because it's not just about me, it's about everyone, I think.
Thank you. That's a really beautiful ending, and so I hope that the board isn't listening right now, so they will be busy the next year. Thank you so much for coming out there. And well, we're jumping from subject to subject, and well, the next subject I'm really curious about as well. When I was a kid, I used to go to church because my family wanted it. I know it's pretty old school, but after my third Christmas or so, I kind of decided to give up on it. But well, these three artists were thinking, what happens if we collide with a traditional church ceremony? And they're going to tell you all about it. Here are Michiel Eubels, Christa Smulders, and Fran Hoebergen. Oh, yeah, and it's all in Dutch.
Sorry.
Hallo en welkom allemaal bij onze presentatie getiteld Kerkdienst Remix. Samen met Fran en Christa heb ik de bijzondere gelegenheid gekregen om te experimenteren met een protestantse kerkdienst en of het te combineren valt met spektakel en sensatie.
Hoi, ik ben Fran Hoebergen en ik ben audiovisueel kunstenaar en dichter en muzikant. En ik heb de muziek onder andere verzorgd bij de performance en in mijn muziek maak ik gebruik van omgebouwde speelgoed, synthesizers en meer.
Hallo, ik ben Christa Smulders. Ik ben beeldend kunstenaar en ik woon en werk hier in Eindhoven. Aanzetten? Doet u wel? Oh, hallo? En ik woon en werk in Eindhoven.
Hallo, ik ben Michiel en ik ben filmmaker. En de films die ik maak zijn vaak beetje ongemakkelijk en absurdistisch. En ja, je ziet hier bijvoorbeeld een voorbeeld van datingapplicatie. Dat is, dan breng ik 2 mensen samen in een hotelkamer. Eerste date, maar alles is gescript. Ik heb Christa en Fran ontmoet op de Kunstenacademie in Maastricht. En hoewel we totaal verschillende soorten makers zijn, werken we regelmatig samen. En een voorbeeld hiervan is Koffie en Cake. Een PowerPoint-presentatie die we hebben gegeven, gevuld met paringsdansen en een beetje absurdistische poëzie.
Door Koffie en Cake zijn wij opgevallen in Rotterdam. En voor een zeer bijzonder project gevraagd. De grote Sint-Laurenskerk heeft ons gevraagd om een officiële protestantse kerkdienst te herschrijven samen met de dominee. Michiel, Fran en ik zijn alle 3 geen kerkgangers. En sinds onze kindertijd zijn we ook niet bij een kerkdienst geweest. Dus daarom zijn we eerst naar een reguliere dienst gegaan van de dominee. En hebben we alles opgenomen en gekeken wat zich daar afspeelde. We waren erg te spreken over de boodschap van deze dienst. Het ging namelijk heel erg over dat je niet te veel aan jezelf moet denken en juist heel veel moet geven. Alleen de vorm van de dienst, daar waren we niet zo heel erg over te spreken.
Ja, dus we stonden eigenlijk voor een hele interessante uitdaging. Wij als 3 toch vrij radicale makers kregen een vrijkaart om helemaal los te gaan met rituelen en bijbelse teksten. En stelden onszelf eigenlijk de vraag van hoe kunnen we hier zo ver mogelijk in gaan zonder de kerkganger echt heel erg tegen de schenen te schoppen. We hebben de originele teksten uit de dienst niet aangepast, alles woord voor woord overgenomen. Maar de vorm, daar zijn we echt flink mee losgegaan. We hebben bijvoorbeeld in de plaats van iedereen met de neus dezelfde kant op alles in een cirkel neergezet en het hele decor heel erg aangekleed.
We hadden ook een zeer verrassende mix qua publiek, want aan de ene kant hadden we natuurlijk de vaste kerkgangers die een reguliere dienst verwachten, maar verrast werden met een zeer absurde spektakel. En aan de andere kant hadden we kunstpubliek, wat niet zo minder vertrouwd was met kerk. Een voorbode was voor ons wel dat het niet saai mocht worden, want het was 1,5 uur. Dus ik heb kerkliederen omgevormd tot elektronische dansmuziek waar publiek... Het publiek gaf zich er helemaal aan over. Dit is de dominee Bot 3000. Die las bijbelse teksten voor met een vrouwelijke computerstem. En we hadden ook verschillende mensen uit het publiek gevraagd om een stuk uit de preek voor te lezen.
Gedurende de dienst waren er 3 vrijwilligers die constant bezig waren met een grote veelzijdigheid aan allemaal verschillende instructies aan het uitvoeren. Zoals het verwisselen van kledingstukken, zo hard mogelijk schreeuwen als ze konden, elkaar met vliegenmeppers slaan en eigenlijk constant een soort onrust te veroorzaken.
We hebben ook een professionele rolschaatser ingehuurd die tijdens de dienst cirkels om het publiek heen schaatste. En aan het einde kwam zij uitgeput het podium op om de laatste gebed voor te lezen.
Om al onze chaos zo aantrekkelijk mogelijk te verbloemen, hebben we gekozen voor een hele gezellige sfeer. En daarom hebben we eigenlijk mijn hele woonkamer in een busje gepropt en naar de kerk verplaatst. De dominee heeft zijn rol heel erg goed gespeeld. Hij is van begin tot eind statig gebleven. En we hebben hem geen 1 keer kunnen betrappen dat hij een moment van twijfel had gedurende de dienst.
Een maand na de uitvoering heeft de dominee ons op de koffie uitgenodigd om de kerkdienst na te bespreken. Hij had wel een hele hoop kanttekeningen bij onze dienst, maar gaf wel toe dat er bij de protestantse kerkdienst toch behoorlijk wat ruimte is voor verwarring. En
Dankjewel.
Misschien wil je je zin nog afmaken.
Ja, wat wil je zeggen?
ja, dat de dominee het met ons eens was dat de sensatieverwarring binnen een kerkdienst een welkome afwisseling was, dat hij er tevreden mee was. Dus ja, een succes in onze ogen.
En, ik was heel erg nieuwsgierig naar want het initiatief kwam vanuit jullie zelf, denk ik, of vanuit de dominee? Vanuit de dominee.
Ja, vanuit de kerk.
En wat was de reden dat hij hiernaar op zoek was? Was daar een specifieke reden of was het gewoon voor het experiment?
Ja, hij was wel benieuwd wat er zou gebeuren. Hij stond heel erg open om eigenlijk zijn vaste publiek, de vaste kerkganger, dat ze ook een beetje uit hun comfortzone getrokken zouden worden. En dus dat je niet alleen voor een bepaalde, ja, dat het niet te gemakkelijk of te comfortabel wordt. Dat je ook over andere dingen na kunt denken, zoals de vorm van een kerkdienst of wat er gezegd wordt of gedaan wordt.
Gewoon een vernieuwing van het bestaande, zeg maar.
Ja. Ja.
Oké. En
Ze hebben dit ook al eerder gedaan, zo'n kerkdienst. Volgens mij 2 jaar daarvoor hadden ze het ook in samenwerking met Showroom Mama gedaan.
Ja.
Ja, en toen was het eigenlijk ook toch wel iets heel anders en best wel radicaal. Ze zeiden van je mag eigenlijk alles doen wat je wil. Maar bij de vorige uitvoering hadden de performers witte onderbroeken over hun hoofd. En dat vonden ze smaakloos. Dus dat was eigenlijk de enige voorwaarde wat we dan niet mochten doen.
Ik heb wel heel veel respect voor deze dominee, dat hij door zo'n oud iets toch durft wat nieuwigheid erin te brengen. Dus,
Ja.
Ik vind het heel gaaf. Vanuit het publiek? Ja?
Sloten de sensationele gebeurtenissen ook aan op de teksten die er verteld werden?
Dus sloten de sensationele gebeurtenissen ook aan op de ceremonie?
Ja. Ik vond de handelingen, de opdrachten die bijvoorbeeld de 3 vrijwilligers die we uit hadden gekozen, die illustreerden heel erg het onderwerp waar het over ging vaak.
Ja, en soms ook helemaal niet. Maar als je dan iemand zo'n fruit ziet schilderen en je hoort iets, ik weet niet, het is al snel, je denkt van, het is metaforisch en het maakt het luisteren aangenamer en het werkt dan wel of zo. Ja. Dus ook als het niet helemaal klopt, ja, dan klopt het toch vanuit het kijken, deels.
Ja. Vooraan, ja. Nog een vraag. Dus de gebruikelijke kerkgangers vonden die het niet aanstootgevend dat er bijvoorbeeld een banaan werd geschilderd opeens?
Het was wel wisselend, zo qua reacties. Zo, er was een wat oudere dame en die poorde haar dochter juist aan van, ga mee rennen met die skater, want dat was ook een moment dat ze mee mochten gaan rennen. Maar er was ook inderdaad op het einde een soort stuk wat we hebben met Onze Vader. En dat vonden toch veel mensen iets te ver gaan. Dat zat net op de rand qua geloof en spektakel.
Ja.
Ja.
Maar het banaanschilderen was geen probleem.
Nee.
Goed om te weten voor de volgende keer.
Ja.
We gaan nog heel even naar het online publiek. Geen vragen op het online publiek. Maar ik wil jullie hartelijk danken voor jullie komst en voor jullie verhaal. Ik vond het super gaaf om te zien en heel interessant.
Dankjewel.
Dank je.
Dank je.
Dus mocht je nou nog meer over deze 3 kunstenaars willen weten. Michiel Ubels, Christa Smulders en Fran Hoebergen. Je kan ze ongetwijfeld vinden op Google of aanspreken aan de bar als je het geluk hebt om hier live bij te zijn. Let's switch back to English. Yes. Hello. Sorry. We're going to... we have less speakers this edition. So unfortunately, we have one more speaker for today. But it's a very interesting speaker. At least I'm very curious about what he has to say. The days are getting colder. The environment is maybe getting icy this year. And there's one person that knows all about ice molding. And I'm going to give the stage to Arno Pronk.
Hi. So I discovered that ice, but with reinforced ice, which is already invented quite long ago, not so much happened. So there were some small experiments, and during the Second World War there were some projects, but actually there was not something special with this material. But if you reinforce ice, it becomes stronger, and it has a very low CO2 impact. For instance, it has just 20% CO2 impact if you compare it with plywood. And if you compare it to steel, it's even much more. So I discovered this material, and I did some projects with it since about 2013. This was my first large project in Finland. It's a very large igloo. It was the largest igloo with a span of about 30 meters. And this inspired me to make projects for new projects. And now I'm heading for a project for the Winter Olympics in Beijing in 2022. And this is my proposal. I made 3 proposals. The tower you just saw, this is inflatable with ice where you can go inside. And the good thing of this inflatable is that you can control the environment. And therefore it can be done in Beijing because the climate in Beijing is not that cold. But more up north in the mountains, it's much colder, and there you can build a project like this, like the Temple of Heaven in ice. If this will be built, this will be the largest structure ever, larger than the igloo I built in Finland. This is the picture of the inflatable, which I used for the igloo that was built. So first we inflated this structure, and then we sprayed it with a mixture of sawdust and water. Here you see the sawdust sprayed on the inflatable, just in small layers by layers. And actually the whole igloo was built in just about 7-8 days. The good thing of this reinforcement is that you don't have thermal shock. With natural ice, if you spray water on it, it will crack. If you spray this reinforced ice, it can take the tension. After this large igloo, we built this structure, the Cicada familia in ice, which is more like a look-alike. Actually, we couldn't finish it because the climate changes quite a lot in Finland, and therefore we couldn't finish the high tower that shouldn't have been 30 meters of height. But you can see the front towers at the entrance. So it convinced me to go to China, because in China the weather is much more stable. It's very cold, not as cold as in Siberia, but it's close to it. And we went to Harbin, and in Harbin I realized a very thin shell structure of 30 meters height. with this inflatable. And we worked on this for about 4 weeks, and it was finished in January 2018 by spraying layers and layers. Here you see how large it is, and it was the largest thin cell structure. So on top, it's just 7 centimeters thickness. It's very thin, and halfway it's about 40 centimeters, and at the bottom, at the foundation, is just 1 meter. So after that, I went to something else. I thought, okay, let's look into 3D printing of fiber reinforced ice. And so I made this structure, which is the first 3D printed fiber reinforced ice as a grid shell. And you can stand on it. It's very strong. And this winter we realized this tower, which is a combination of 3D printing and spraying on a rope net. And it even got a prize this winter as the most interesting and beautiful structure. Here you see it. This is the final result. What we also did is that the outer tubes are filled with reinforced ice, and in this way they were frozen, so that makes the structure easier to realize and faster. And actually this is more or less the prototype of the structure we want to build for the 2022 Winter Olympics. So this is more or less a prototype. So we are now planning to prepare us. Actually, we wanted to go this winter also to China to do it, but because of this COVID, we are not able to do it. So we will do some experiments in freezing cells here, just in the Netherlands. So this is the project we want to realize: 40 meters high grid shell tower. We want to do this in cooperation with some Chinese partners in Nanjing, Harbin University of Technology, and Tsinghua University in Beijing. Summa College is the college here in Eindhoven. We work close together with them. So actually, those are the 3 proposals we want to make. And now we're going to submit this in October, and then let's see if they want to realize it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I'm really curious. What connected you? What brought you into the ice world? I don't know how to put this.
Yeah, it's a bit special. We have no ice here. And yeah, the first project I did with ice was with a cooling machine in 2023. We did it in September just in Amsterdam. And it was quite successful, and it really triggered me. And later, a year later, in Dutch Design Week, we realized also with the cooling system, a kind of object which was also interested. And yeah, so it made me thinking, and then I bumped into this reinforced ice, and I thought, yeah, nothing is happening with it. So let's see if we can do something with it, because I think that has a large potential. You can make moldings with ice, you can make large structures with ice, you can use it for Arctic expeditions, whatever. So that made me, and that triggered me.
It's really interesting, and it's really light and still. It stands. It's really interesting. So I have many more questions, but first the audience. Yes, Thomas.
Seeing the ice sculptures, it got me thinking, is there a possibility to recreate Dutch Elfstedentocht?
The question from the audience is, by using this method you just introduced, is it possible to recreate the Dutch Elfstedentocht, which is a ice skating tour?
If you cover all the canals, then it can be done.
Maybe he got a new idea for you now. Any more questions from the audience? That was a really creative one. Yes?
Do you have a vision on what these ice structures will be in the future? Do you have something to work towards?
Do you have a vision what these ice constructions will look like in the future?
Yeah. Now, for exhibitions, it's quite successful. There are, especially the Harvard Ice Festival, attracts millions of people, and so therefore I think it's interesting. Also in Japan, Hokkaido, they have ice festivals. So, and this also brings something new instead of just solid ice objects and sculptures. This is a new application. So I think that's at least that's what now is the most successful. The other topic I'm now really going into is ice molding, because if you add some additives to concrete, you can use ice as a molding material. Especially moldings are producing a lot of waste, and so this can be quite interesting. So I'm now, more or less looking into this.
Thank you for your answer. We have room for one more question from the audience. So, what do you have to do before you get into the next World Games, Olympics? Do you have to make a whole,
The 15th of October, there is, we can submit proposals. And I was already in contact with the Olympic Committee in Beijing. They said they were interested. So let's see if they really like it and want to go through with this topic. But it's always, first we have to submit, and then they have to like it. So
it would be awesome. We are going to root for you, Arno. Definitely me. Thank you so much for doing your presentation and coming here on stage. Thank you so much, Arno Pronk.
Okay.
And that's it for tonight. But before we take our leave, I have one question for Fran. Do you know anybody that's into rocket fuel?
Rocket fuel? No.
Well, next Pecha Kucha, there might be somebody that knows all about rocket fuel, and that's the total mystery. So, I see you guys next time for the 38th edition of Pecha Kucha. Thank you so much for coming, straight from Eindhoven, live in the air, and going offline right now in 3, 2, 5. That's it.